Welcome, Joe.
The future of transportation. I believe that the future of transportation just took a hard right turn. And the question is, are we looking around the corner? I'm going to start today by sharing a story with you. But I have to tell you the story about the story. See, the story is set in Paris, France. Now, I can't bring up Paris, of course, without acknowledging what's recently happened there. Some of you know that my husband Mike and I, we lived in a small village in Provence for a year. We spent a lot of time in those little sidewalk cafes that were the scene of so much anger and hate and violence. My heart goes out to those people in France. But I'm going to share this story with you because I think that this story, at its core, it speaks to the magic of Paris. You see, I was about 2009, and I was traveling to Paris for my work. I was working with the World Road Organization. And like you do, you fly all night, you land in the morning, and you're jet lagged. So my strategy has always been to stay up all that day and then go to bed early. But I needed to keep myself awake, so I decided I would take the subway into the city center, because if I'm standing up walking around, I am unlikely to fall asleep. So as I board the subway, there in front of me, stepping on just before I do, was an American family with a little girl and a little boy. So I started a conversation with the family, and I was talking to the parents, and we had this nice little chit-chat. And I said, well, how long have you all been here in Paris? And to my surprise, it was the little boy, skinny, brown hair, big glasses. He was the one who piped up. We've been here for 4 days. Oh, 4 days. So well then, what's your favorite thing so far? Going to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I'm thinking, well, that was way too easy of a question. I said, well, great, so if that's your favorite thing so far, what's your next favorite thing? What I'm going to do today. What I'm going to do today. But I submit to you that some of the trends we're going to talk about today, that somewhere in here is your next favorite thing. Somewhere in here is what you're going to be doing tomorrow. What I'm going to share with you are some trends that I believe are coming together and converging unlike anything we have ever seen to dramatically influence and disrupt transportation as we know it today. So we'll talk about a few of those trends, and there's certainly more, and how they converge with each other. So let's start with the first one. You know, as I think back on that little boy, that was so many years ago now, and right now, he's the one that we're designing for. Our customers are changing. We were just talking about that here at our table, about how the customer is changing. Look at these numbers. These are millennials. Only 44% of teens get a driver's license within 12 months of coming of age. Not nearly as interested in driving. One of the stories we were just talking about here is a young man who was at one of the Skyway meetings, and he stood up and very nervous, 20-something, and said that he liked the Skyway. He used it to get where he was going. It was a social responsible choice for him. That's the customer now. Now at the same time, we have another cohort. This is the one that I'm rapidly becoming a part of. Yeah. So look at this. The labor force participation rate of those in their mid-60s is increasing. Different set of people, also needing transportation, perhaps also not as inclined as they used to be to want to drive. We were talking here as well that perhaps some folks who are more visually impaired like to have other options as well. I know that in my case, I would much rather have another option than drive at night now. So these are two different cohorts that we are designing for, and we need to keep in mind what the preferences are of the millennial generation for transportation. So that's just one of those influences, and we'll see how it impacts the rest of transportation. Here's another dot. We all know we're connected, right? We're connected. But what's interesting now is the level of interaction that that connection drives. Look at these numbers. Over 200,000 photos uploaded to Facebook every minute. 350,000 updates sent every minute to Twitter. Are you aware that YouTube is the second largest search engine? And I just saw there's 173 billion blogs, and that was in 2011. Now, I understand that about half of those are cat blogs, so maybe they don't count quite so much. It's the level of interaction that we're experiencing. Check this out. And I borrowed this from another speaker. I can't take credit for it, but it was so powerful I just had to include it and share it with you. So this was a photograph of the Vatican taken in 2005. We're going to fast forward to 2013, 8 years. Now think for a minute, we're transportation professionals. Think of what we accomplished in 8 years, right? We're going to planning, we're going to the environmental process, we've got PS&E development, right? 8 years. Wow is right. Wow is right. You are living in a world where you have to assume that everyone can comment on and photograph everything that you do. Today, 60% of people use social media to report service issues. How are we prepared for that? 30% of them expect a response in an hour. This is not just a one-way thing. This is a digital dialogue. About a year ago, there was an article in the Washington Post. An article was about a gentleman who rode our metro, our subway system. And something went wrong with metro, as it frequently does. I have a very soft spot in my heart for metro. It's really hard to run a successful system without a lot of funding. So something went wrong with metro, and he tweeted it. Nothing. Shortly after that same day, he got on Amtrak. And something went wrong with Amtrak. He tweeted that. Within a few minutes, someone from Amtrak responded. And they forwarded his information to their service department. The article in the Washington Post was about the difference in the response. One was perceived as being on the money and paying attention and service-oriented, and the other not. That's the level of expectation that we see in transportation today. Data, another dot to connect. You all know it's a big data world. But look at the scale of this. 20 households generate more internet traffic as the entire internet in 2008. That's crazy. It's big business. This is big business. Transportation organizations are increasingly going to be in the big data business. When we start talking about connected vehicles, we'll talk about the amount of data that's going to be flying around. What I submit to you is that as transportation industries, we have always been kind of a do-it-yourselfer. Right? We get our own data, we analyze our own data, we kind of always done it ourselves. I believe that that day is over. The quantity, the scale of data that we're experiencing and are going to experience exceed the capacity of transportation organizations. This is a service that we're going to buy. It takes a lot of science and it takes a lot of art to analyze it and to bring it into information that you can use. This is also data information. Everything on this screen is a crowdsourced app. Now I'm assuming everyone here knows Waze, right? Waze users? Wazers? Congratulations to FDOT. Congratulations, you were the first DOT to work with Waze and take advantage of that data set. Congratulations. Now you see Oregon looking into it. I believe Iowa is looking into it. It's an amazing data set. And so perhaps, maybe it's not quite the quality we think that we ought to have, but it's time to get past that, right? When you see the sheer amount of data that Waze has, work zones, cars stopped on the side of the road, a crash ahead, real-time travel speed, red light running cameras, police officers, all of that's crowdsourced data on Waze. Move It is the transit version of Waze. Smile Drive is a partnership between VW and Google+. When you have your VW, you get the app. As you drive more, you get more points. As you interact with other VW users, you get more points and you get prizes, and it's a lot of fun. Smile Drive. Meteor Counter, that's NASA. So the government getting into the act, taking advantage of crowdsourced information. They would love to have more information about meteor showers. Well, look at all the eyes and ears that are out there. They created this app so that as you see a meteor shower, you can input your data, and now they have reams more data that's available out there. My favorite, and I haven't used this, this is by KLM, Must See Map. So let's pretend like you're going to go to Stockholm, and some of your friends have just been to Stockholm. They're able to say, hey, you got to try this coffee shop. Or wow, you won't believe the great food at this restaurant. And they are able to populate your map so that when you land in Stockholm, you have a map of all their favorite places to go. Crowdsourced map just for you. The other thing, and you all know this, personalized data. Every time you get onto Amazon, what does it say? Recommended for you. Recommended for you. I'm on Twitter. Whenever I follow someone new on Twitter, I get a little thing that says, if you follow so-and-so, you might also want to follow these people. Same thing on LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn and it says, here are some people you may know. It's information that's designed for you. That, too, permeates transportation. Look at this. 80% of those 35 and younger want the car to understand their technology preference and predict their needs. So this dynamic of personalized data also applies to us in transportation. It applies to those of you who are providing traveler information. This is the expectation, to have personalized data. This is another great example. Transportation organizations, I grew up in the public sector. We don't have a lot of money, right? We're scraping by for every penny. And then there's so many demands for that money, for maintenance, for updates, for all those basic services. And this industry, this technology industry is moving so fast. How would we ever keep up? Some state DOTs, some city DOTs, like New York City, have decided that they're going to find a different way to participate. They're going to harness that energy that's out there for them and their citizens. What New York City did is they held an app contest. They released a lot of their data. They said, come everybody, create your apps, we'll have a contest. These are two that they created. Not only is there an app for that, but it's a multimodal app for that. It's a way for them to participate in this high technology industry and to be on the cutting edge without them spending all the money to do it. You leverage the creativity that's out there in the environment. Another one, I just got this data. Are you aware of Here? It's a company Here. Okay. So there's other companies like this, Inrix. You might aware of Inrix? Yeah, a little more name recognition there. They're the same kind of companies, right? They're not crowdsourced, they're pro-data sourced information. These are some of the stats from Here. 3 million changes per day to their map database. Because they're driving around the streets, they're getting information from the people using it. Serve 9.1 billion transactions per week, 390 million routing instructions per week. What if they're working for us? If we're sharing information with them and they're actually working for us. It's a very powerful way to share information. So let's connect the dots. What's transportation like in a mobile connected world? Well, first of all, it's all on digital platforms, mobile platforms. So if you do not have a website that is mobile optimized, you're in trouble. Are you aware that Google recently changed its search engine criteria? It will prioritize mobile optimized websites above others. So if you do not have a mobile optimized website, you're not going to be prioritized with all the others. It has to work on a mobile platform. Digital dialogues is not enough just to send information out through social media. Yay, that we're doing that. You've got to be prepared to engage in discussion on digital dialogues. And I believe that we in transportation have become part of this ecosystem. I'll talk more about sharing data. We have information that's useful if we just let it go a little bit. We hold so tightly to it. But if you let it go, now we get to participate in this ecosystem. And to be sure, we in transportation, in the public sector, we are not driving this train. We are not driving this train. So let's shift gears and look at a different one. Let's look at vehicles. This is what we hear a lot about today. Look at again some of these numbers. Here's why this is moving so quickly. Look at the number of hours per vehicle per year that we're in a vehicle, in a car. What if you can monetize that time? What if you can monetize it and take advantage of it? That's where the money is. Are you shopping? What are you doing if that time you don't have to be driving? Some of these numbers, I just got these. By 2022, well, 7 years from now, right? Remember the pictures from the Vatican? That goes by quickly. 488 billion savings in accident avoidance. 500 billions in productivity gains. That's what's at stake here. This is why we're not the ones driving the train. 75% of cars will be connected to the internet by 2020. That's 5 years from now. To be clear, this is cellular connection. It's going so fast. This year, General Motors installed 4G LTE on all of their models, not just the high-end ones, all of their models. And they are not the only automaker that's very rapidly moving to put cell connectivity inside their vehicles. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about cell connectivity, but I do want to make the point that that's here, it's today, it's growing at light speed. I'm going to mention it just a little bit. What most of us hear about and are curious about is dedicated short-range communication. DSRC. Who is familiar with DSRC? Okay, so let me just do a little bit of background about what this is and why it's important. So dedicated short-range communication is a wireless technology. It is Wi-Fi based. So imagine that you have the Wi-Fi router in your home, and now it's modified to work in the vehicle. So what it is a transmitter and receiver. So the vehicle takes data off of the vehicle, it goes through the transmitter, sends that data out 10 times a second, 360 degrees around the vehicle, 10 times a second. A similarly equipped car, similarly equipped, has the same kind of Wi-Fi receiver. So one sends, one's receives. And this one also can send, and this one can receive. So the one that receives the data, takes the data, there's algorithms on board the vehicle that processes the data and is able to tell you if you are in an imminent crash situation. Imminent crash warning, and it will give you a warning. The belief is that the technology is powerful enough to have a very dramatic impact on the number of crashes. Because of that, that's why NHTSA is very interested in it. So we know NHTSA. This is yes. Okay. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Okay. So NHTSA regulates safety equipment on board the vehicle. Because of the safety impact of DSRC, they are pursuing regulatory action to require this technology on board vehicles. Okay? It only works if both vehicles are equipped. Now, to pursue regulatory action, action is a multi-step, multi-stage process. Here's where we are today. They issued an advance notice of proposed rulemaking in 2015. Expect to see a notice of proposed rulemaking sometime early in 2016. That will put forward their proposed language about their regulatory approach. That's worth watching, and I'll share with you why that's important. Assuming it goes well, then they would have to go back and write a final rule. So they put it out for public comment. So those of you in public sector, you know how this works. Get public comment, get all the comments in. They have to resolve, they have to address every comment they get. They would probably write a final rule in the following year. They typically have a multi-year phase-in process. Because imagine that you're Ford Motor Company. Now you've got to actually build your vehicles differently. So they give them several years to phase in to meet the requirement. We think we might see the actual requirement in 2020. Now here's the problem. Both vehicles have to be equipped for it to work. They estimate that it takes about 37 years for complete vehicle fleet turnover. Now, of course, over time, you're getting more and more vehicles equipped. People like me, I believe that if we get this far, you'll see some aftermarket options that will become available. Won't have probably, very likely not have the full capability, but I believe that you'll see some aftermarket options become available. So you'll see that penetration rate faster than 37 years from now. So that's kind of where we are. This is some of the things to pay attention to. Like I said, in 2015, NHTSA issued its B2B notice of proposed rulemaking. They got it internal for review right now. They'll release it publicly in 2016. This past summer, FHWA released a draft V2I. Okay? So the first one that NHTSA is interested in is vehicle-to-vehicle, vehicle-to-vehicle connectivity. FHWA's draft guidance document is vehicle-to-infrastructure. So, for example, the vehicle's sending out information. Your traffic signal can do the same thing. Equipped with similar equipment, Wi-Fi enabled, signal phasing time, signal phasing timing, signal phasing timing. The vehicle's able to pick up that signal, do the same kind of algorithms, and tell you if you are about to run the traffic signal. And that's one of many vehicle-to-infrastructure applications that are possible. Right? Because V2V doesn't help you with runoff road crashes. So if you have a sharp curve somewhere, you can have a piece of infrastructure that's saying, give me the curvature, and it's sending it out on DSRC. The vehicle's able to pick it up and know if it's at the appropriate speed and give warnings. So FHWA released a draft V2I deployment guidance document. The final will likely come out early in 2016. It's worth paying attention to. Here's the big difference. NHTSA regulates the automotive industry. FHWA does not regulate this. They do not require you to install the infrastructure. It would be a local choice. The guidance document gives you things to consider as every agency makes its own decision about whether or not it chooses to install DSRC-enabled infrastructure. The other thing, does anybody know, did Jacksonville submit a connected vehicle pilot? No?
FDOT did.
Okay, yes. So congratulations. I didn't want to congratulate the wrong people. So congratulations in Florida. The first wave of connected vehicle pilots was just announced. It was New York City, Wyoming, and Tampa. So Florida is part of the first wave of these pilots. There'll be a next wave in 2017. So this is the kind of time frame that we're looking at. We just talked about that. So here's what I would suggest. This is the gospel according to Shelley. I believe that it is relevant for you to be able to look at DSRC right now. Because what you do with DSRC is also relevant for cell connectivity. I think the time is now to look particularly at your data needs. What data do you have? What do you do with it? What would you like to have? Because now think about every car out there taking this bundle of data and sending it out 10 times a second. The other thing you need to be aware of is that that bundle of data is called the basic safety message. It's about this much data, 10 times a second. There's information that's of value to you there. But there's a basic safety message part 2 that goes out less frequently. It frankly has more information of value to you. NHTSA will require those 2 bits of information to be distributed. At this point, we believe they will be distributed for free. But there's a lot more data on that car, a lot more data. And some of that data is what you would like to have to operate the system better. There is nothing that says that the automotive industry has to distribute that extra data. And there is absolutely nothing that says they have to distribute it for free. So I believe that you're going to see a whole different industry emerge around some of that data set, depending on who is determined that owns the data. For the part that's required by NHTSA, it would be required as part of federal regulation, and so that would be distributed. So it's something important to watch. What data do you need? Where do you want to play? Here are some things that you could start looking at right now. High crash intersections, one of the early winning applications for this technology. What's a high crash intersection that could benefit? Do you already have planned signal system upgrades that you could add just a little bit of money and incorporate this technology into those signal system upgrades? Curvature, corridors with really dense data needs. Do you all want to play in the connected vehicle pilots in 2017? We're almost at 2016 right now. Now's a really good time to get started on it again. A couple things to look at. AASHTO infrastructure footprint analysis is out there right now. It gives a lot of specifics and details about how to install DSRC equipment. Then FHWA's deployment guidance, the draft you can still find out there on the internet. It's actually underground in DOT right now, but it'll come out officially in 2016. More that I believe you can do, this is kind of my personal passion. I believe we have more that we can do to play in this game. That the data that we collect, the data that we have, if we just release it a little bit more, then you enable all kinds of creativity. It puts us in a position of working with some of this industry, being a participant with it. Transit data has been openly available for a long time. That's why you see a lot of transit apps out there today. Why can't we release signal timing data? More information about your work zones, bridge height information, curvature information. You put it out there and you're going to see creative, entrepreneurial people take it and create things that our citizens can use today. We just have this little control issue about our data, right? There are cities that are releasing traffic signal data, for example. If you're interested in that, I'm happy to connect you with some of those folks. You have to figure it out. Figure out what kind of liability, what are your parameters, all those sorts of things, but it is very doable. Let's connect some of these dots. I believe we can start planning for connected vehicles right now. Look at how can you share your data. Analyze the data needs that you have. Understand what could you do if you had that basic safety message. What new thing is enabled. Study if that data is going to meet your needs. Now here's the other thing. This is new. I just read an article about a test that was done in Germany where they tested a different kind of application of LTE, cellular. And they were able to get the latency, the speed, down from 100 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds. That's getting very close to the speed of DSRC. So if we get to the point where we see that LTE can reach the kind of latency that DSRC does, we already have cell towers. We don't have to build a new security network, and I didn't talk about the security network, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. Then you might see that some of the momentum is taken out of the sales of DSRC, and we could get there quicker by using LTE. So this is something to watch. This is just developing right now. Let's look a little bit about self-driving vehicles, because this is all the news, right? This is all the rage. Self-driving vehicles. On the bottom left here, this is NHTSA's typology for self-driving vehicles. Level 0 is no technology. Level 4 is fully self-driving. Levels 1, 2, and 3 are varying levels of evolution in the self-driving chain. So you'll hear people talk about level 2, level 3, automation. Level 2 is on the market, level 1 absolutely on the market. Automatic cruise control, automatic braking, automatic parking, those are all different aspects of an evolving self-driving vehicle. Have you seen this? This is what the Google car sees. So that's the kind of technology, radars, LiDARs, camera systems, but that's the kind of data that they're capturing. So that's an image from the Google car. I saw a test the other day. They were doing the same thing, and there's a bicyclist that's riding along next to the Google car, and they signal the turn signal, and the vehicle's able to pick up the turn signal for the bicyclist. So it's pretty impressive technology. So what does it enable? That's the exciting part. And this is the game changer. Look at this. Look at the numbers. Look at the dates. 2035. Estimated to have 12 million self-driving vehicles sold globally. Now the other thing that I don't really highlight here, but I do want to mention it, the belief is that not only are you going to see a shift in the vehicle technology, but you see a shift in the vehicle fueling technology. So you begin to enable more electric vehicles. Look at these numbers. Electric vehicle charging stations from 650,000 to 7 million by 2021. 2021, that's 6 years from now. We don't sneeze in 6-year segments. That's just right around the corner. This is a huge shift. Here's the other key piece of the puzzle. This one is the one that really makes so many things possible. This is the notion of going from driving to transportation as a service model. Look at the number. 39% of people say they get along just fine without driving. Okay. You guys have the Uber here, right? Yeah. Lyft as well? Yeah. It's that sharing economy, that willingness of people to share transportation. Now, begin to marry this up. This is Ubigo. Ubigo is a test in Gothenburg, Sweden. It's been going on for a little while. On the flight out here, I just read an article about the test. Here's what they did. They took 77 families, and they said, we're going to give you an app on your phone, and it's a service. So transportation has now become a service for you. It's not your car. It's a service. So when you need to go somewhere, you're going to use your app. You're going to call up that service, and you're going to tell it what you need, where you need to go, and it's going to give you a gas car, an electric car, a bicycle, transit, carpool, bike, or taxi, depending on what your need is in that moment for where you need to go. 76 of the 77 had all of their transportation needs met by the service. And it was $112 a month cheaper than owning your own car. The automotive industry is gearing up for this. You'll hear it called a peer-to-peer model. They're talking about fractional ownership. So you have companies now that have fractional ownership of the Learjet, for example. Now, why would I not do that with a car? Look at these numbers. So this is car as a service. Now you'll see it phrased a lot of different ways. Car as a service, mobility as a service, transportation as a service. The estimate is that when we see self-driving cars, that the majority of them will be used as a car as a service model. Think self-driving Uber. Sit on that a minute. Think about self-driving Uber. You need the vehicle when you need it. You call it up on your phone. It's self-driving. It's going to pick up me, and then it's going to go pick up Holly. And then it's going to go pick up everybody. You don't need as many cars. Right? 85% of the world's population has no driver's license. It's expected that this model, car as a service, we'll begin to see it by 2025, because it's already being tested in Europe. You're already seeing Ford and GM, both of them, preparing to be part of a car as a service business model. They get this. They are not going to be left behind. They're changing the way they view their business. We need to too. Check this out. Now think about that. Self-driving Uber, think about what that means. Right now, 3 to 8 parking spaces per car in the U.S. 31% of central business district space in the 41% major cities is parking. Do you think there might be a higher and better use? Right? The average car sits idle for 20 hours a day. Actually, the real stat on that is 23. And that was so big I couldn't bring myself to type it. Why do we need to do that? Why do you need to have a big chunk of real estate in your backyard for a car that's going to sit idle when I can share it? Or when I don't need it at all. I can call up on my phone and get any kind of transportation I need in that moment when I need it. It completely shifts the way we view land use. It shifts everything. This is so huge and it's so exciting. It's so exciting. Okay, so what does that mean to us? Let's connect the dots. Who's here from a planning organization? Yeah. So planners, we all need to have a lot of respect for the planners. This is the most difficult time I can think of in our history to be a transportation planner because there's so much disruption and there's so much uncertainty. Look at the numbers. See, here's where we fall into the trap. We believe that this is so far out there. You know, it's so far out there. But look how the numbers line up. Self-driving vehicles, depending on who you listen to, 5 to 20 years. Do you pay attention to what they actually say? They're not saying when it's 5 years, they're not necessarily saying it's going to be on every possible road, right? Because it's a lot easier if you're on a freeway than if you're on an urban street where you've got bicycles and buses and Fido and Fluffy and soccer balls and all those things, right? So there's an issue of capability and where we'll see it first. 5 to 20 years. Cars as a service, 5 to 10 years. Connected vehicles, even in NHTSA's worst case scenario, you're looking at 20, 30 years, right? Now, think about your long-range transportation plan. Do you have any investments in that long-range transportation plan that have a 20, 30, or 40-year life? This is yes. Yes. You are in this world today. You need to be planning for this world today. How do you do it? It's hard because we don't have clarity. It's like trying to work in the fog. But the only bad thing we could do is to not consider it. What I believe, what I suggest when I work with AASHTO planning subcommittee, is that we need to think about how do you build off-ramps in the planning process? How do you build a pause point in the planning process? So you put projects in the long-term plan, then they're going to go into the short-term plan. Good time to go, wow, okay, so what do we know now that we didn't know then? Does it still make sense? And then it's going to go to the environmental process. Good time to pause. All right, so what do we know now that we didn't know then? Does it still make sense? And then depending on the project, it takes a while, a couple of years maybe, to go through the environmental process, depending on the project. You get ready to go into PS&E development, good time to pause and say, okay, does it still make sense? What's happened in the technology world between now and then? Does it still make sense? And then you get to PS&E, you develop the PS&E, and you get ready to go to letting. Does it still make sense? We need to be stopping all along the way in order to assess what we understand about this technology evolution. It's disruptive. It's going to change the very way we think about transportation. It will so impact your investment choices. And you all have some big investment choices to make right now, right? Skyway's a big investment choice. This kind of stuff, what's the lifetime? If you were to continue the Skyway and expand it, what's the life of it? It's 25 years old now, right?
Right. Another 20.
Another 25 years. Right in the middle of this. What does that mean? What does that mean for the decision-making process? It's tough. It's not clear. But you have to be thinking about it today. We're in that window today to assess those options. This is a disruptive time, and it's so exciting. You know, that little boy said to me, my next favorite thing is what I'm going to do today. Of course, I couldn't help myself. It's cool. in the Louvre. I said, you know what? You're going to find plenty of treasure in the Louvre. I suggest to you, this is our Louvre. Our future is somewhere in here. This is where we need to be thinking, how do we play here? Because the future of transportation, it just took a hard right turn. The only mistake we can make is not looking around the corner and searching for the treasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to turn it back over to you. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Wow. You know, of all the different programs and discussion about future transportation, and we talk about roads and bridges, it always feels like we talk about, oh, today, in 5 years. Very, very refreshing to really get that upper level, really good look at what that future of transportation is.